Sadiq Khan has revealed his fury over a recent report uncovering yet more evidence of gross misogyny, homophobia and racism in the Met. And he has finally pointed the finger at Met Commissioner Cressida. Speaking on the Today programme, he demanded immediate action.
If I believe that the Commissioner can't win back the trust and confidence of Londoners, if I believe that the Commissioner doesn't understand and doesn't have a plan to root out what is clearly racist, sexist, misogynistic, unprofessional behaviour.
To come up with a plan then, is that what you're saying? Because in relation to Wayne Couzens, there's the Louise Casey review underway. Are you essentially saying that this is a Macpherson-style moment and it needs that kind of response?
It's more profound. Let me tell you why.
More profound than Macpherson, which was a finding of institutional racism.
Macpherson took 2 years at the public inquiry, then another year to come up with his 70-plus recommendations. Louise Casey has started her report this week. She'll take a number of months to come up with her recommendations and to look into what's going on in the police service. The investigation being conducted on behalf of the Home Secretary. The nationwide investigation will take a number of months. We can't wait. Let me tell you why I say we can't wait. We police in this country upon a very important principle of one of consent. If it is the case that Londoners, whether you're a woman or a girl, whether you're a person of colour or you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, haven't got confidence in the police service to come forward when you're a victim of crime, to come forward when you're a witness of crime, to come forward and join the police service, that's a problem for now.
Sadiq Khan was speaking a week after an investigation revealed groups of police officers had traded deeply offensive, misogynist, racist and homophobic messages on WhatsApp and Facebook. An independent Office for Police Conduct found that messages exchanged between 2016 and 2018 in groups of up to 19 officers, mainly based at Charing Cross Police Station, amounted to bullying and harassment. The messages are absolutely vile. A warning, they make reference to rape, violence against women and killing children. We're going to show you some of them now. So some of the messages which were revealed was one police officer who wrote this: "Getting a woman into bed is like spreading butter. It can be done with a bit of effort using a credit card, but it's quicker and easier just to use a knife." It's a message from a Metropolitan police officer. Another sent this: "My dad kidnapped some African children and used them to make dog food." A male officer sent these 3 messages to a female officer: "I would happily rape you. If I was single, I would actually hate fuck you. If I was single, I would happily chloroform you." So that's messages sent by a male officer to a female officer. And then we have a conversation between 2 officers. So you've got Officer 1. "I effing need to take my bird out. Won't see her until next Saturday. Then I have to work. Promise to take her out the Friday after, making it up to her from when I backhanded her." Then Officer 2 says, "Grab her by the pussy." Officer 1 says, "You ever slapped your missus?" And then Officer 1 says, "It makes them love you more. Seriously, since I did that, she won't leave me alone. Now I know why these daft and the C words are getting murdered by their spastic boyfriends." Apologies for the language here, but I think it is important to read this all out. "Knock a bird about and she will love you. Human nature, they are biologically programmed to like that shit." Then Officer 2 says, "Lamau," and Officer 1 says, "I'm right though." These are just some of the horrific, I mean, I'm sure you were genuinely shocked by those messages. These are just some of the many, many horrific messages uncovered by the IOPC. Following that report, Cressida apologised, saying there is no place in the Met for the appalling behaviour displayed by officers at Charing Cross Police Station. Their conduct does not represent our values, and I am deeply sorry to everyone. They have failed. Those words might sound nice enough, but they do ring pretty hollow when we consider the fact that just 4 of the 14 officers involved in circulating those messages were sacked, 1 resigned. Unbelievably, the remaining 9 are still serving and 2 have been promoted. Empty apologies have, of course, now become Dick's specialism. Here are a few more recent examples.
"I recognise that for some people, a precious bond of trust has been damaged.
If those officers' actions have added to the families unimaginable distress, then I apologise from the bottom of my heart. And I don't rule out in this case. And as I said, my senior officer I didn't say this, but she said, I'm sorry to Ms. Williams for the distress it has clearly caused her. And I say that too. I have the deepest feelings for Daniel Morgan's family. They have shown extraordinary grit and determination and courage. And yesterday I apologised again to them for our failings.
You heard there Dick apologising for 4 incidents. The first was the police response to the murder of Sarah Everard. Sarah Everard was kidnapped, raped and murdered by a serving Met police officer. Then when women held a vigil in her memory, they were treated like criminals by the police. The second apology was for the events following the murders of Nicole Smallman and Bieber Henry. Their bodies were found by family members after police had been slow to initiate a search. Once the police did turn up, 2 officers took pictures of the dead bodies. The photos were then doctored and shared with other officers on WhatsApp. The third apology you heard was for the stop and search of athlete Bianca Williams, who has won gold for Britain at the Commonwealth Games. Williams was stopped by the police while in a car with her partner and 3-month-old baby. 3 of the officers involved are under investigation for gross misconduct. That final apology followed the results of an independent inquiry into the 1987 murder of private detective Daniel Morgan. That revealed extensive police corruption, including attempts by Cressida Dick herself to interfere in and obstruct the inquiry. So how did Khan respond to all of these failures? Well, in July 2021, just days after the Daniel Morgan report was released and 3 months after Everard's murder, Khan said this in response to Andrew Marr.
Do you have faith in Cressida Dick, or should she resign?
I've got faith in Cressida Dick. I've got full confidence in Cressida Dick.
Khan would go on to support a 2-year extension of Dick's term as head of the Metropolitan Police. So why this sudden change of heart? Khan has now said that Dick is on notice and has a matter of days to give him a satisfactory plan for how she will handle this latest scandal.
So what happens if she does not come back with what you consider a good enough response on both of the fronts that you've talked about in days and weeks, which is the time frame you've outlined?
Well, look, I'm not talking hypotheticals, but if it was the case, anybody who works for me hasn't got my trust and confidence. More importantly, hasn't got the trust and confidence of Londoners. I wouldn't keep silent about that. I'd take action.
So what happened? What changed? Did Khan suddenly realise he was wasting good political capital on defending his police chief? The WhatsApp messages are disgusting, that's for sure, but does Khan really think they're worse than the Sarah Everard case or the Daniel Morgan corruption findings or the treatment Koshka Duff received or the Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman murders?
Thanks to a broader movement, social movement that is taking place to increase scrutiny of and question the unbridled power that is wielded in this country by the police, we've created the space for a rigorous and proper conversation around the concrete evidence that we now have and insight into what has always been true. It's really important to understand that this kind of ideology is something that has existed throughout the history of the Met Police. And that's why we cannot blame it on just a few rotten apples. It's far too historically continuous for that. And specifically, this kind of dehumanizing and demeaning ideology that is held by the police, particularly towards communities that are over-policed, so people of color, working class people, women, these are things that are ideologies that those over-policed communities have always known existed, have always tried to ring the alarm on it and have been systematically ignored. And so you asked that important question, which is why now? You know, we have known what the Met Police is. We have known specifically who Cressida Dick is. We saw it in her role in the murder of Jean-Charles de Menezes. We saw it in her role in, as you outlined, with Daniel Morgan, in the Sarah Everard protest, all of that. And it's important to mention that, you know, Cressida Dick is not an outlier. You know, that is the kind of, she's sort of fulfilling the role that the commissioner of the Met Police holds. My answer to why now would be, we've got a movement. I think that we have seen such a vibrant and multiracial, cross-geographical movement that has forced into the public conversation a genuine and far overdue conversation about the role that police is given in our society and the nature of the institution as an institution of state violence. You know, kill the bill, Black Lives Matter. These are some of the largest protest movements that we have seen in recent history in this country, with the exception of maybe the climate movement. And the message is very clear. We do not want our communities over-policed anymore. We do not want to endow the police with the amount of power that they have. And we do not want the police to be deployed to deal with social problems. And because we know that this is how our community members are treated by the police, and because we know that they do not keep us safe, and in fact, they actually oftentimes put us in danger, these are the reasons why we are making these demands and why we are seeing these movements coalesce at this moment. And so this has created a situation and created the political space for Sadiq Khan to come out against the police commissioner, something that would have been unthinkable not that long ago. You know, this isn't the first time that Sadiq Khan has been presented with evidence that there's something wrong in the Met Police. It's just that now the political climate has changed and space has been created by ordinary people in order to make it so that he is able to make a statement like that and place that kind of pressure on him. And I think that this is a really important example when we think about how social change happens. And I think specifically on the issue of policing, it's a really good example because, you know, if you cast your mind back to the Corbyn leadership changed the conversation on many different issues in society and on the economy. But they always remained very conservative on the issue of policing. It was seen as a no-go topic. In fact, they often actually talked about increasing funding to the police under the banner of an anti-austerity politics. And they rightfully attracted criticism from minority communities for doing that. It was seen as a kind of comms suicide to criticize the police just, not that long ago, just a few years ago. And especially to criticize the police from the position of the left and from the position of racial justice. And yet within 6 months of Jeremy Corbyn losing the general election, we see apparently this issue that is so stigmatized and that will lose so much popularity. We saw it galvanize one of the biggest cross-generational, cross-geographic, diverse movements, street movements that we have seen, with the demands to reduce police power and hold police accountable. So how did this thing that became that was unimaginable, even within the context of a political movement of Corbynism that questioned a lot of social and political and economic orthodoxies, how did that suddenly become imaginable? And it didn't come from, the right comms from the people in power. It came from a mobilized and organized demonstration of power, of people power on the streets, in public discourse, in media, and within our communities. And so this just tells me that in so many in so many cases, we shouldn't see ourselves as constantly having to triangulate those in power, but rather we actually do have the power in many contexts, especially when we speak with moral clarity, to lead politicians like Khan rather than be led by them.